Hello, and welcome to the Roundtable, the official podcast of The American Mind. I'm Seth Barron, managing editor of The American Mind. Today I'm joined by no one. It's a lonely roundtable. I feel like Lancelot or Galahad or somebody, everybody's gone. So I'm just manning the roundtable by myself. So I'll be soliloquizing a little bit today. It's not going to be a full hour, but I will try to give you some food for thought and see if we can make it work. Just me. The big news to my mind, well, obviously there's been plenty of things going on. You know, we still haven't talked about the raid on Mar-a-Lago. That's clearly major news. I think that's developing, though, so we can talk about that maybe next week when the fellas are back. I would like to talk about Liz Cheney's defeat, which to me seems very significant. And, well, I wrote a piece about it. Okay, I wrote this for Unheard, the British website, the night she lost it, and just the other night. And so I'm going to read this, but it's lively, and I think you'll enjoy it. And then I'll talk about my own piece. So here we go. They titled it, this is from unheard.com, which is a great website, unheard.com. Liz Cheney's neoconservatism is dead. Liz Cheney's thumping defeat in her bid for renomination for Wyoming's sole seat in the House of Representatives signals again the utter and total defeat of the Bush-Cheney-Romney era of the Republican Party. The neoconservative period of GOP dominance ended when Donald Trump trounced the field during the 2016 primary season. But the avatars of that political tendency in favor of military adventurism and free markets and opposed to capital gains taxes and what Liz Cheney's father once called the death penalty, referring to estate taxes, keep appearing like ghosts at the feast to rattle their chains and insist on being seated above the salt. Reliably Trumpy until the January 6th riot at the Capitol, Representative Cheney about-faced to embrace every jot of the Democrats' narrative regarding Trump's alleged attempt to ignore the election results, dispense with the Constitution, and establish himself as a Caesar on the Potomac. After House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected the Republicans' name to serve on her special committee to investigate the riot, she named Liz Cheney as a minority representative to preserve the appearance of bipartisanship. Cheney cheerfully accepted appointment as committee co-chair and embraced her role in the Inquisition. Cheney relished the opportunity to sit before cameras and play act as the last patriotic Republican, a defender of the nation and its democratic values. Her performance on the January 6th committee was read by all members of her party, outside the province of certain op-ed writers whose primary audience is each other, as purest perfidy. Her bland recitation of the most absurd Democrat claims about Trump's disloyalty were taken as an outrage. That said, why did Cheney even bother running for re-election? In a state that voted more heavily for Trump than any other, twice. What is characterized in the press as a split in the Republican Party between Trump supporters on one hand and conventional Republicans on the other, in fact, is not a schism or factional matter at all. It more closely resembles an ice flow upon which the decrepit and useless remnant of the party has been set adrift. The neoconservatives who proudly announced that they would vote for Biden in 2020 because they put country over party now await smugly in their splendid palace of principle for the rest of the Republicans, having come to their senses, to slink shamefully back, asking for guidance. But they wait in vain. Mainstream Republican voters, even if they don't especially love Trump, embrace the program of the new GOP. no new wars, law and order, an end to wokeness in public schools, and sensible pro-family policies that don't include intentional immiseration of the middle class through inflated energy costs. But that doesn't mean the Bush-Cheney-Romney cohort will disappear. They can still make noise and wave their tattered battle flags, even threatening to mount rearguard challenges at national conventions. Dick Cheney, in a cartoonish commercial in support of his daughter's campaign, glowered at the camera, insisting that, quote, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. But our republic, like our democracy, must always be heard with a stress on the possessive. When Cheney or Pelosi or any of the other ones say our, they mean theirs. Trump's threat to established power is less ideological than proprietary. Liz Cheney's concession speech included a grandiose citation of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, the part where he said, "We here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain," with the bizarre implication that she, like the martyred savior of the Union, plans to rescue her daddy's party by running for president. But the problem for Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, the Bushes, and their comrades in exile is that they aren't wanted by their own party. The other party has little use for them, and they lack the most important element for power in an electoral system, a constituency. So that's my piece. Me talking about my own piece sounds a little absurd, but I do think it's funny what happened in Wyoming the other night. Liz Cheney was utterly blown out. Now, I don't know, but what did she lose by? 30, 35%, 35 points? Has there ever been she lost by 37 points. Has an incumbent congressperson ever lost a primary by that margin? I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert on these things, but I can't think of anyone. And remember, Wyoming has, I believe, open primaries. So there were independents and Democrats voting, against, voting for Cheney. So, I mean, the real numbers are crazy. This is clearly a deeply, deeply unpopular person. So it's funny that the very next, and as I said in the piece, this is the most Trump favored state in the nation. And Liz Cheney raised, I believe, $14 million, which is the most for any primary election in Wyoming history. I don't even know how much they spend on their general elections in Wyoming. She raised tons of corporate money, tons of money from across the country. And it's funny, I don't know, who is giving her this money? She got a lot of money from corporations and so forth, or from, high-placed executives of corporations. But what is it for? Like, who are they trying to, what are they trying to prove or demonstrate? The polls were clear all along that she was going to lose. So it just seems like a funny thing to do. I guess a big question is, why would you then think that the next move is to take it to the national stage and to really build this brand? Apparently, she has launched an FEC, Federal, Election Commission organization, a committee called The Great Task. And, the point of The Great Task, I guess, is to, promote this program, this agenda of restoring the real republic, saving the republic. Here's what she said. No matter what happens tomorrow, we're in this fight for the long haul. And we're in this fight to make sure that those of us who believe in freedom and those of us who believe in the importance of maintaining our Constitution, those of us who believe in the importance of the Republic, we're going to prevail. Now, in what sense are they going to prevail? There's this funny way in which all of the never-Trumpers, they have this self-image that there's like 40 or 50 million like real Republicans in the country who are just, really committed to all of the principles, the deep principles of George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, and they're just mad as hell that Trump has stolen the party from them. And they're just waiting. They're keeping the powder dry, and they're frustrated, but they're gonna come out. I mean, this is what we've been hearing for years now. Here's Bill Kristol, head of the Republican Accountability Project. He went on CNN to talk about Liz Cheney and where she goes now. So here, listen to this. It's 2 minutes, but it's pretty good.
So, Bill, you know a thing or two about trying to carve a path for Republicans away from Trumpism. You've been trying to help the GOP lawmakers who voted to impeach Trump after January 6th, and I know it's not been easy. And we've certainly seen them pay the price in these primaries. So will Liz Cheney be able to find that other path?
I mean, I don't know. I think in the short term, 3-4 months, she really can focus on the January 6th committee, which has done a heck of a job. Remember, everyone was so skeptical 6 months ago. Oh, they can't make a difference. They have made a difference in terms of bringing a lot of facts to light, and also I think weakening Trump in the Republican Party, at least among sort of donors and some elected officials. There'll be hearings in September and maybe even to October. She's the key person on that committee, so she has that to do for the next 3-4 months and finish out her term as a representative. Whether there's a path after that, I don't know. I tried to get Republicans to vote for impeachment. I tried to get Republicans to run against Trump in 2020. I tried to get Republicans to help a little bit those who did vote for impeachment and conviction. And basically, the Republican Party is very resistant to my efforts. But you know what? Liz Cheney is a very impressive person and has more clout than I do, probably. And maybe her efforts will pay off more. But I would just say one last thing. People say, well, she should just run for president. She'll be on the stage and she'll be able to debate. I'm not so sure about that. We think the Republican Party is going to let her on the stage. They're going to make everyone who wants to be in the debate say they'll support the Republican nominee. Liz Cheney won't say she'll support Donald Trump. Well, state Republican parties let her be on the ballot. They could easily say, I think they could say legally, at least in a lot of states, we need a certification that you're going to support the Republican nominee. She won't do that. I think the degree to which Trump dominates the party will make it hard for even a legitimate challenge to Trump, a real challenge, not just a DeSantis or Youngkin or someone who's a little different, but someone who really wants to take on Trump on January 6th, on the election denial, on the rule of law. They're going to make it hard for that person to even, get on the stage literally or figuratively against Donald Trump.
So I like the part in this little clip where Bill Kristol is saying, I've tried really hard to convince the Republicans. I argued with them not to support Trump in 2016. I argued with them to support impeachment. I argued with them to run against him in 2020. And they're just really hard to move. And it's like, well, maybe the problem is you. I mean, that's the thing. These guys all went over, voted. They said, we are voting for Biden, but don't think that means we're Democrats. We're just, strange bedfellows in this. It's like, no, you're not. You're Democrats now. I mean, he started out as a Democrat. You could argue that whole project is kind of Democrat. Remember, who was it? Was it Eisenhower who talked about, no, I'm sorry, was it Bob Dole who talked about Democrat wars? A lot of the neocon program dovetails with the Democratic vision, especially on foreign policy. Anyway, I mean, what is the difference between Bill Kristol and Nancy Pelosi, really? Is there one? So I just think it's kind of rich, this idea that fresh off her 37-point disastrous defeat And this is a woman who was, undeniably pretty conservative. So she gets wiped out because she opposes the leader of the party. And the idea is, well, now we've just got to take the next step and move it up to the national stage. This is completely illogical. I mean, I guess, look, there's clearly some kind of very lucrative grift going on. I expect she'll probably get a book deal. Maybe get like $1 million advance and write a book that 1,200 people buy. Maybe she'll wind up on CNN. Clearly, I don't know who's funding these people, but clearly somebody is. She'll do whatever she's doing with The Great Task, which sounds like, I don't know, does it have to be so grandiose? Anyway, she'll do something with that. Maybe she'll pretend to run for president. Bill Kristol, I like the way Bill Kristol excuses the obvious unpopularity of Liz Cheney and her program by contending that the National Republican Party and the state Republican parties are going to suppress her voice. Like they'll never let her on the stage, he said. Well, probably she wouldn't get on the stage because she wouldn't have anybody voting for her. I mean, that's a precondition. Forget about whether she agrees to support the eventual nominee, as Kristol was saying. I mean, I think another precondition for to get on the stage is to have at least 1% in the polls or get somebody to vote for you. So that seemed kind of funny. Well, listen, I think I've pretty much exhausted what I came to do. This is hardly the most thrilling podcast, but it is the silly season. It's late summer. I don't even know how many people, maybe you're lying on a beach somewhere or canoeing in a nice mountain lake and just listening to the Roundtable, tuned in, hoping to hear my colleagues, Spencer, the features editor, James, the executive editor, Ryan, our publisher. Unfortunately, you're stuck just with me, managing editor Seth Barron. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was at least slightly edifying. So thank you for listening to the Roundtable. If you want to learn more, visit our websites at AmericanMind.org, Claremont.org, ClaremontReviewOfBooks.com, and our DC-based Center for the American Way of Life at dc.claremont.org. You can donate to support the show at claremont.org/donate. Don't forget to rate, review, share, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week with a full complement from the Roundtable.